What's a piece of advice you received that seemed strange at first but turned out to be remarkably accurate? Story 1. I read this somewhere. A girl practicing archery kept missing and her instructor told her, "You're failing because you're too focused on the target and not your own actions." She said it was the best life advice she ever got. Story 2. Not exactly advice, but my dad used to talk to me and send me articles about incredible technological advancements, smart roads, CRISPR, solar panel efficiency, fusion breakthroughs, and cutting-edge topics I loved reading about. 6 months ago, he passed away suddenly and tragically. Talking with my siblings, we realized he did the same with them, tailored to their interests. Medicine for my sister, sports for my brother. We didn't realize until he was gone that he researched our interests to connect with us. It broke me a little. My dad was always amazing, but we never fully grasped how truly great he was. The advice? Know your kids. Share their interests. Story 3. Before I got married, my stepfather advised me to think carefully. My fiancé's family was extremely racist, strongly opposed to us being together, and their reaction to our relationship caused a lot of conflict and pain for him. My stepfather said, "When you marry someone, you usually gain a new family. If you marry him, you won't have that. He'll lose his family and be alone, and you'll only have our family. Think if it's worth it." I brushed it off because we were so in love, like it was us against the world. Years later, he was right. It doesn't affect us daily and we don't regret our relationship, but we miss things others have: family gatherings, childcare support, a second set of relatives. As my righteous anger faded, it's left me just tired. Story 4. My eccentric Uncle Bob told me, "Always carry a rubber chicken in your backpack." I thought he'd lost it, but he explained, "You never know when you'll need to break the ice in a tense situation." Picture this. You're in a job interview, things get awkward, you pull out a rubber chicken and start squeezing it. Instant laughs, instant connection. They'll remember you as the quirky candidate. I laughed but decided to humor him. Weeks later, I was stuck in a broken elevator with strangers. Tensions rose, so I pulled out the rubber chicken and started squeaking it. Soon, everyone was laughing and chatting like old friends. It turned a stressful moment into a memorable bonding experience. Uncle Bob's absurd advice proved surprisingly effective for breaking the ice. Story 5. On my wedding day 40 years ago, my father-in-law pulled me aside and said, "Always carry a book with you." Confused, I smiled and thanked him. A year later, my wife and I were visiting her parents. We had a 7 p.m. dinner reservation, but my wife and her mother, both chronically late, were still getting ready. My father-in-law announced we'd wait on the porch. We chatted, but it got late and I worried about the reservation. He confessed it was actually for 8 p.m. After more talk, we fell silent. Then he pulled a book from his back pocket, looked at me and said, "Where's your book?" Story 6. Don't worry about fitting in. People may think you're weird now, but you're becoming interesting. I got this advice as a teen and it's 100% true. While others focused on drinking and partying, I was building websites, drawing, writing AI chatbots, and designing Duke Nukem 3D maps of my school. 20 years later, I have an interesting career, surround myself with interesting people, and have diverse hobbies. Meanwhile, many who obsessed over fitting in are now the most boring, average people. Dating apps show it, a sea of similar, dull profiles, with the occasional unique person who invested time in their youth to become interesting. Story 7. When my wife was pregnant with our first child, a friend with 2 young kids gave me great advice. Lots of people will have strong opinions on how to raise your kids, and some will feel completely wrong. It costs nothing to say, "Thanks, I'll keep that in mind," and move on, ignoring them. It avoids anger and conflict, giving you peace. When your wife is giving birth, everything in that room, even the coat rack, is more useful than you. Your job is to do what she wants without complaint or delay, be calm, comforting, and stay out of everyone's way. Also, don't wear your good shoes to the delivery. All of it was spot on. Story 8. Never date a man who hates cats. I've never met a man who hates cats who isn't controlling, insecure, and emotionally abusive to his partner. They resent cats' independence and refusal to take nonsense, just as they resent those qualities in women. It's a huge red flag. I'm not talking about allergies or preferring dogs. That's fine. But some men irrationally despise cats without reason, often making comments about harming them. Those men don't respect women. Story 9. Write on a piece of paper, I am good, I am talented, I am valuable, and stick it on your mirror. At my second job, I struggled to accept I couldn't compensate for 4 colleagues who quit, leaving half-finished case notes. I dealt with angry parents yelling about agreements I didn't know and frustrated teachers repeating themselves. A wonderful coworker with experience in the field understood my struggle to keep a sinking ship afloat. When she asked why I did it, I said, "Someone has to. It's mostly my fault. I need to be better." After a longer conversation, she gave me that advice. Recognizing my own worth was transformative. I still make mistakes, some serious, but I don't have to fix things beyond my control to prove my value. Story 10. A therapist told me to journal and I thought it was silly, so I didn't. Later, watching Say 7 and something about Kevin Spacey's library clicked. Now I have hundreds of notebooks filled with stream of consciousness ramblings, sometimes 20 to 30 hours straight. Some are just my name or specific phrases repeated. I write whatever comes to mind. Rereading helps me sort my thoughts. Friends and family joke about who'll find them after I die. You probably don't need to take it that far, but it's incredibly helpful. Story 11. This may not seem strange to some, but for confident people or men it might. My grandmother and mother told me to lock my car doors as soon as I get in and check the back seat for intruders waiting to attack or force me to drive somewhere. Also, never walk alone on trails and run if I felt a man following me. They were never attacked, so as a young person in a safe area where weapons aren't legal, I thought it was overprotective. But they were right. You can't assume most people are decent. There are many predators. This advice saved me from a near rape and worse. The world isn't safe even in safe countries. Ignoring that while hiking or camping alone invites trouble. It's riskier for women, as most serious predators are men, often driven by attraction to women. Story 12. At 8, during an Easter egg hunt, my 14-year-old cousin tripped me as we both spotted the golden egg. I scraped my palms and he laughed hysterically. I got up fast, hitting him in the head with my basket and backhanding him. His face turned red, but he wasn't hurt. My dad, holding a beer and cigarette, saw it and asked if I was okay. My cousin complained, "She hit me twice." Dad said, "I'm asking my daughter, not you." When my cousin asked if he'd scold me, Dad replied, "Why? We should all trip her. She's a kid, you're a teen. If you don't want people to mess with you, don't mess with them. If you do, don't be surprised if you get more than 2 hits to the head." I've followed that advice for 35 years. Don't mess with people, but always stand up for yourself. My dad's family still calls me Baby Hulk because of it. Story 13. My 11th grade history teacher, while discussing my career and education goals, said, "Don't be a damn cliché." It shocked me she swore, but it stuck. I was in a tough spot, bounced between relatives because my dad wouldn't parent or just vanished. I had panic attacks, no friends, and a drug problem, a typical troubled teen story. Her words changed my life. I switched to a different program, quit drugs, graduated, got a great full-time job, and moved across the country to live with supportive family. I owe my life and success to a teacher whose class I barely attended, who had the guts to curse at an immature teen. Story 14. Don't trust women, my father told me, explaining. Women are wonderful but fickle and self-absorbed. creating scenarios about others, especially partners, based on imagined or unspoken things. They draw conclusions believing they deserve more than they give, making them untrustworthy. They won't tell you if something's wrong, bottling up anger until they unleash baseless accusations. I thought he was a bitter misogynist after my mom kicked him out and I got a new stepdad. Years later, I married, had 2 kids, worked hard, provided everything: cooking, cleaning, gifts, love notes. After 24 years of happiness, I found out my wife was cheating with a 19-year-old, planning to take everything I'd earned. When confronted, she said I did nothing, despite my efforts. Now she begs for another chance, saying it was all in her head. I spent years blaming myself but realized I was a good man. She's just broken and selfish. I failed to see people as they are. Story 15. 2 phrases stick with me at 35. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence or the human condition. People's negative actions often stem from pain, jealousy, or personal struggles, not malice. My dad also said, "Fight smart," about arguments with my mom post-divorce. Even if I was right, she made the rules as my mother. The advice: pick your battles or lose the war. It's not groundbreaking, but it stayed with me. Story 16. Don't treat your baby's first 2 years like they'll define your life. My brother explained that early parenthood is a whirlwind where days feel endless, but things change so fast most issues aren't worth solving. My wife and I fought over washing bottles. She wanted to hand wash, I insisted on the dishwasher, like it was a life-defining decision. 2 weeks later, our baby stopped using bottles. We had a similar fight over tossing a onesie. She thought I was lazy, but I pointed out we had 50 and the baby would outgrow them soon. Half our fights were about things that didn't matter weeks later. Story 17. My dad, a quirky guy, often told random jokes or cryptic wisdom. At 7, out of nowhere, he said, "Never marry James Bond." I thought it was a weird joke. It was a serious warning about avoiding dangerous men, no matter how exciting they seem. He mentioned it again at 16, worried I'd date someone risky. It took 9 years to realize it wasn't a joke. Story 18. A pivotal boss told me I was a no man. When my team asked for help, I'd explain why something wouldn't work instead of finding solutions. This led me to adopt a why approach like Simon Sinek's before he was known. Why are you asking? What problem are you solving? As an IT guy, it's easy to say no. Something's infeasible, costly, or insecure. Asking why transformed me from an IT guy to a customer-focused problem solver. Story 19. As HR manager at a manufacturing company, we faced high employee turnover despite a strong market position. We couldn't figure out why employees left, costing us heavily in hiring and training. In college, a professor said high turnover might stem from 1 or 2 supervisors. I thought it was just his opinion, but I tested it. After months investigating 56 production units, 100 supervisors, and 9,600 employees, I found a small group of senior employees, led by 2 veteran supervisors, bullying others. No one dared complain because they were well known even to my boss. I transferred the supervisors to other cities, citing business expansion, then fired the bullies. Later, I fired the supervisors for poor performance and complaints. Turnover dropped to nearly 0, saving the company millions. My professor's useless advice worked perfectly. Story 20. Define your own success and decide what promotion you're willing to sacrifice for, a military mentor told me. He shared about a 3-star general who had a breakdown when not selected for a 4th star, already in the top 0.01% but never feeling successful because someone had more. I saw this with peers chasing promotions unethically only to fail. The mentor's second point: Choosing when to stop sacrificing doesn't mean giving up, it means preserving your life. I saw colleagues lose family and friends chasing promotions. A former Army Chief of Staff said, "We're all future non-selects for promotions." Don't let the day you're not selected be the day you realize your loved ones stopped selecting you. In today's influencer culture, people fake lavish lifestyles, making young people feel behind when they're often better off. A subordinate complained she couldn't afford our area, comparing her apartment to my house. I'm 30 years older, it took decades to afford my house. She earns over $10,000 a month but feels like a failure, sacrificing relationships for endless hustle. Define success and know what you're willing to sacrifice.